Good morning, students. Myself, Karthik Kulkarni. I am a chemistry faculty at Angadi College of Commerce and Science, Belgaum. So today, I am going to discuss one of the important concept of chemistry in case of 10th standard, that is chemical reactions and equations. Chemical reactions and equations. This is one of the important concept in case of chemistry. So now, here we need to understand what do you mean by a chemical reaction. First we need to understand. Then we will begin with the concept called as equations. So, to make you understand about chemical reactions and equation, so I would like to consider some examples of our day-to-day life. Some examples of our day-to-day life. Like digestion of food, digestion of food that we consume daily. First one, this is the first example. Then second example, very important example from my side, conversion of milk to curd in presence of lactobacillus enzyme. Lactobacillus enzyme. Now, see here. So the first example what we have considered right here, digestion of food. So, initially what we consume a food, a different form of food we consume, like either it might be rice or roti we are going to consider. Once we consume this food, once we take this food in our body, so once we start consuming this food, once it enters into our body, so the food start undergoing reaction and it will convert into carbs, proteins. So I can consider one example. So it will get converted into glucose, energy, which comes under carbohydrates, carbs. Okay. So initially whatever the food that we consume, that we intake, so it undergo a reaction and it will get converted into what? It will transform into glucose, which is a carbohydrate. Even it will get converted into what? Proteins. This is the first one. Second example is, so initially what we have taken right here, milk. So after undergoing a chemical reaction in presence of lactobacillus enzyme, it has converted into what? Another compound called as curd. Now, from these two examples, what we understand is, whatever the component that we have taken initially, after undergoing a process called as chemical reaction, it has changed into some different form. Whatever the component that we have taken inside, after undergoing a reaction, it has converted into some other component. Like in case of milk, initially it was a milk, now it has converted into curd. Initially it was a food, that is either it might be rice or roti, it has converted into what? A glucose, which is a carbohydrate. So now, from this what we understand is, chemical reaction is nothing but it is a process where one form of a component is get converted into another form. One form of a component will get converted into another form because of what? Because of only one process called as chemical reaction. Now, how to say whether the chemical reaction has taken place or not? So you can see here, the identity of the component that you have taken has converted into some other one. See, its identity is it is a milk. Its identity is it is a curd. We cannot say curd as a milk and we cannot say milk as a curd. Now see, initially what we have taken, identity called as milk you have taken. Identity means what you are going to call it. So you have taken a milk initially. Suddenly it has converted into, is it converted again into a milk only? No, it has converted into some other identity called as curd, where the identity and the property of the milk is different. The identity of the curd and the properties are different. Are you getting? One more thing. See, its identity is what? Whatever the food that we have taken, its identity is rice, roti. Both are different. So after undergoing a process called as chemical reaction, its identity and property has been changed. Converted into what? A glucose. Glucose is an energy source. Correct? So chemical reaction is a process where one form will get converted into another form due to a process called as chemical reaction. Chemical reaction where its identity as well as properties, nature, everything is going to change after undergoing a process called as chemical reaction. So one more time I would like to tell you, chemical reaction is a process where one form will get converted into what? Another, that is from one identity to another identity, from one nature to another nature, from one characteristics to another characteristics. This is all because of a process called as what? A reaction, that is called chemical reaction. So one form to another form, one identity to another identity, it has changed due to only one thing, that is called chemical process. Chemical process, that is what you are going to call chemical reactions. Chemical reactions. Now you understood what do you mean by a chemical reaction? Chemical reaction is a process. It is a process where one identity or one form will get converted into another form by undergoing a chemical process. By undergoing a process, which process? Chemical process. That is what you are going to call chemical reaction. Where chemical reaction is nothing but what? Where in case of example whatever we have taken, milk will get converted into what? Curd. Food whatever we take will get converted into what? Glucose. So this conversion, this change in the identity. See, this is a food, we cannot call it as a glucose. This is a glucose, we cannot call it as a food. Okay, one more example I can take. This is a milk, can you call it as a curd? No. After undergoing the process, it will get converted into what? Curd. This is a curd. Can you going to call it as a milk? No. It has already undergone a chemical process. So that is called chemical reaction. Conversion from one form to another form. Let me take one more example for this. Okay. So I would like to take one more example. So one more example I am considering right here. Here I am going to consider ice, where the particles in case of ice are densely packed. The particles in case of ice are densely packed. After undergoing a process called as chemical process, which is due to what? Due to temperature. Due to temperature, the ice will get converted into what? It will get converted into one more component or one more state of matter called as liquid. Okay. So initially it was ice. Due to the process called as chemical process, it has converted into another form of state of matter. Which form? Liquid form. This is all because of what? Only because of chemical reaction. Only because of what? Chemical reaction. And you can reverse this. So after when you again allow liquid to cool down, it will again get back to what? Ice. From liquid form to ice form. So identity has changed. Initially it was liquid. Now identity is what? Ice. Initially it was ice. Now identity is liquid. This change from one form to another form, one identity to another identity, is all because of a process called as chemical process, and the whole thing what you are going to call chemical reaction. Chemical reaction. Chemical reaction. So in school level we conduct an experiment called as, we are going to consider magnesium ribbon. We are going to consider a magnesium, which is a metal. So magnesium ribbon means magnesium strip you can consider, and we are going to subject this magnesium ribbon for flame. We are going to hold that magnesium ribbon for flame. After subjecting to the flame, the magnesium will get converted into what? White powder. Convert into what? White powder by producing white light. White light. So magnesium initially you have taken, you have subjected this for flame, suddenly it has get converted into what? White powder, from one form to another form. Initially it was solid, now it is in powder form. So from solid to powder form it has converted. So this conversion is all because of chemical process, and the whole thing what you are going to call chemical reaction, where as a result of chemical reaction it produces what? A light. Produces what? A light. So how to identify whether the chemical reaction has taken place or not? Whether the chemical reaction has taken place or not, how to identify? By these examples only you can identify. One, change in nature. Change in nature. If you are going to observe any change in its nature, it is called a chemical reaction. See, it was ice, its nature is densely packed. Now it has converted into what? Liquid, where it is not densely packed, its particles are not densely packed. So its nature has been changed. Second, change in temperature. Change in temperature. Temperature. See, initially ice required cooling temperature, conversion of ice to liquid required increase in temperature. So by this change in temperature, you can say some chemical reaction has taken place. Next, evolving or release of gas. Release of gas. Release of gas. For this, I can give you one best example. So whenever if you start any vehicle, if you want to move that vehicle, you are going to add a petrol. Okay. So once you start that vehicle, so because of that petrol, it start moving. Okay. Along with moving, it start producing carbon dioxide at its silencer pipe. At its silencer pipe. So petrol initially it was liquid. Petrol was liquid. Petrol it was liquid. Now it has converted into what? Carbon dioxide, which is a gas. So from one identity to another identity. Can you call carbon dioxide as a petrol? Can you call petrol as a carbon dioxide? No. So from one identity to another identity it has changed. This is all because of what? Chemical reaction. So with the change in the identity it is producing what? Gas. So by this you can say chemical reaction is taking place. So first one is, if you are going to observe any change in its nature, if you are going to observe change in its temperature, if you are going to observe any evolving or release of gas, or change in the properties, change in property, by observing all these conditions, whatever I have written right here, you can say that chemical process, chemical reaction has taken place. Okay, so this is what you are going to call a chemical reaction. Now we need to understand, now we got to know about what do you mean by a chemical reaction. Now we need to understand what do you mean by, now we have already understood what do you mean by a chemical reaction. So in a simple way with example, I can say just an example, in example form I would like to mention chemical reaction, conversion of solid to liquid, liquid to gas. Okay, so this is a chemical reaction. Solid will get converted to liquid, liquid to gas. Change in temperature, change in nature, change in the characteristics, change sometimes evolve in the gas, and reverse. Reverse. This is a reversible reaction. Reversible. So this is what you are going to call a chemical reaction. Now already you understood what you mean by chemical reaction. Now we need to understand what you mean by chemical equations. Okay, so chemical equations is nothing but it will be available in two forms. One is in word form, another one is in equation form. So first I am going to start with word form. Let me take one example. How are you going to mention chemical equation in word form? Chemical equation in word form. Chemical equation in word form. Word form. So let me consider one example. Magnesium is going to combine with oxygen. Is going to combine with oxygen. It will produce magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide. So one important thing you remember, whatever the components you are observing on my left side, like this, on my left side, on my right side, like this, on my right side, like this, on my left side, whatever you are observing right here, left side or right side. Whatever you are observing, so this part is called reactant part. Reactant part. On my left, just you consider on my left. So whatever you are going to observe on my right side, on my right side. If I turn like this, on my left side, whatever you are observing is called product. Even you can explain like this, conversion of reactant into product is called as chemical reaction. Okay, so now whatever the chemical reaction that is taking place, so you are going to mention that one in terms of words. First one, this is what words. Magnesium combines with oxygen, it will produce magnesium oxide. Now I need to convert this word into equation form. Conversion of chemical reaction, whatever we have written in word, into equation form. How to convert this? Very simple. What is the symbol of magnesium? Mg. Symbol of magnesium is Mg. What is the symbol of oxygen? O2. It is a gas. It will get converted into what? MgO. Magnesium oxide. Magnesium combines with oxygen, it will convert into what? Magnesium oxide. So as I told you earlier, this is reactant part, this is a product part. So magnesium had a different identity, oxygen had a different identity. Two different, whatever the particles or components, whatever you have taken right here, so they had a different identity and they combined and they produced some different identity compound. So this is all because of chemical reaction, that is because of chemical process. So magnesium oxygen combined and they produced what? Magnesium oxide. So that you mentioned in both word form as well as equation form, that is what you are going to call chemical equation. This is what you are going to call chemical equation. After writing the chemical equation, you need to balance. So let me take one example. Have you understood up to this? Okay. So now, magnesium, oxygen combined, which had a different identity, and produced some different component, which had some other different identity. It is called chemical reaction. You are going to mention that chemical reaction in words as well as equation. Okay. Now we need to understand how to balance the equation. This chemical equation. Balancing chemical equation. Balancing chemical equation. Let me take one example, very beautiful example. When zinc is going to combine with sulfuric acid, when zinc is going to combine with sulfuric acid. This is in word form. Word form I am telling. Now I need to explain, I need to write in equation form. Zinc formula is Zn is going to combine with what? Sulfuric acid. Its formula is H2SO4. It will give rise to what? Zinc sulfate and H2 gas. So zinc sulfate formula is ZnSO4 plus H2 gas H2. So whatever the chemical reaction that were in words, I have written in terms of equation by using their symbol. Now we need to balance this. Balance means the number of particles whatever available in the reactant should be equal to the number of particles present in the product. That is, LHS should be equal to the RHS. Okay. Now we need to check one by one. Zn reactant part, product part. Okay. Now check how many Zns are there in reactant. This is reactant part. Only one Zn is there. In product, one. So it is balanced. 1 is equal to 1. It is balanced. 1, 1. Okay. Now check hydrogen. We have to move in orders. In order. Hydrogen. 2 hydrogens are there. This is H2. Okay. So like this it will be, and you are going to write like this later in molecule form. So H2, 2 hydrogens are there. How many hydrogens are right here? 2. So hydrogens are 2, 2. That is molecule. Sulfur, 1 sulfur, 1 sulfur. Sulfur 1, sulfur 1. Oxygen, 4 oxygens are there, 4 oxygens are there. Oxygen 4, 4. So now LHS is equal to RHS, reactant is equal to product, product is equal to reactant. So that means it has the whatever the chemical equation we have written right here, it has got balanced. It is balanced. So word form we have written in equation form, then we balance with this. Balancing is nothing but number of reactant should be equal to the number of product. Okay. So this is what you are going to call balancing. So this is all about chemical reactions and equations, and along with its balancing. So this is what I was supposed to explain today. So I would like to stop right here only. Remaining concept we will discuss in the next class. So whatever I have discussed today, I want to know whether you have understood or not. So for that I am going to, along with this video, I am going to send you a feedback form where you need to tell me whether you like this teaching or not. Along with, have you understood the concept or not, you need to mention that. So please do fill up that feedback form and send back to us, so that we can, whatever your needs will be there, that we can implement right here by developing our teaching skills, our processes, whatever we are doing to make you understand the concepts. Okay. So your feedback will be very helpful for development of this teaching pattern, the teaching ways, teaching concepts, teaching methods. So it will be helpful. Okay. So I hope you have understood today's concept, chemical reactions and equations. Okay. So if you got any doubts, any queries, you can ask us directly. Okay. So we are going to post this video on even on YouTube also. There also you can watch this. Okay. So if you got any doubts, you can ask us. So remaining concept we will continue in the next class. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone. Thank you.